startup, the Indian Fish Company. Shaurya Agarwal and his brother are presenting tonight, and they're a revolutionary sustainable aquaculture startup based in India and using the recirculating aquaculture system at IFC Trout Farms. And they're also spanning the US and India, both of them. Fifth startup, Crate to Plate, based in London. Presenter Daniel Tistow, founder and CEO. They're a vertical farming company using hydroponic and aeroponic technology to grow fresh produce in central London. Their mission is to bring sustainable, locally grown leafy greens to urban communities. And Hungry Hats. We got the presenter, Christoph R. Welsbeck, co-founder, and Hungry Hats is delivering proper food for a better mood. Hat-shaped dumplings, packing the world's favorite recipes. All the startups tonight are raising funds, anything between $500,000 and more. And they'll make this clear at the beginning of their pitch, and also we'll summarize that at the end. I'm just trying to speed up through things. So we're now moving on to our fourth startup. Thank you to the panel as well for your exchanges. Really appreciated it. Now we're looking on to our fourth startup tonight. This is the Indian Fish Company, and presenting will be two brothers, Shaurya Agarwal and Vatsal Agarwal. They're both co-founders, CEO and CFO, accordingly. And they're offering 8% in equity for the Indian Fish Company for some of, and then they're looking to raise $360,000 US. So just a quick little introduction about Shaurya. He's a co-founder and CEO of the company, and it's a company that actually the first company in India to be producing RAS method of raising rainbow trout in a farmed way, and they hope to be the biggest trout manufacturer and seller in Asia. Vatsal, separately, is a former founder and a recent graduate from NYU, and has previously spent some time heading growth at other venture-backed startups. He likes strategy and growth and plans to use his education experience in building and growing RAS plants in India. And they've got a fantastic team. You're going to hear about it now. So over to Shaurya and Vatsal to present the Indian Fish Company.
Thank you, Jamal, for having us. I'd like to also thank Pitch Lounge and the board and the panel to hear us. Vatsal, go ahead.
Hey guys, how are y'all? We're just gonna start now. Jamal, is that good? Can everyone see it?
Yeah, fully visible. Please, you may begin.
All right.
Presenting the Indian Fish Company, Sustainable Aquaculture Development. There are four major problems with fish. The most important one being the population of fish in the wild is rapidly declining. Due to overfishing and climatic conditions, also inefficiencies in productions, the world will soon run out of a constant supply of seafood. India specifically suffers an inefficiency and outdated production methods. Traditionally, pond farming has never been traceable or scalable. Other solutions around the world, like sea cages, are slowly becoming unpopular because they're facing heavy taxations and also sea lice issues. India, like the rest of the world, needs a sustainable source of protein supply. We believe that the solution lies in a land-based recirculating aquaculture system, a fully automated low-cost system that works on sustainability and efficiency to deliver high-quality, traceable fish to our consumers. To start with, we have decided to use this system to grow rainbow trout in India.
The rainbow trout market, with a CAGR of 5.2%, is expected to grow to $7 billion in the next 10 years. And there are three main things which help us start and grow. Number one, there has been a massive increase in the subsidies the government of India is giving to land-based RAS practices. Number two, the recent disruptions in the international supply chain are giving emerging markets like India to be true RAS producers and sellers. And number three, the need for sustainable and traceable sources of food for consumers is more than ever, giving RAS manufacturers a strong chance to create a strong demand for their product. As we see it, there are three white spaces which we want to enter to make use of and make us different. Number one, we want to use India's economical access to power and infrastructure to boost our growth and improve our margins. A traditional cost of building a RAS farm anywhere in the world is around $26 a kilo, whereas our cost only comes down to $16 a kilo. Number two, we want to enter the white space of trusted fish in India. Consumer patterns are shifting. People in India are shifting from buying fish from local markets to supermarkets and departmental stores. And we believe there lies a strong opportunity to create a brand for the Indian Fish Company as a trusted manufacturer and seller of fish. And number three, we want to make use of the subsidies like the PMMSY Yojana the government is giving us to quickly start 100-ton and quickly expand to 400 tons in the foreseeable future.
This is where we come in, the Indian Fish Company. We are developing the fully autonomous RAS system of India. Recirculating system stands for allowing us to use less water and less land for super intensive farming methods. It also protects us from climatic conditions, allowing us to maintain feeding temperatures year round, as our trout will achieve a size of 1.5 kilos in 9 months, while traditional artisanal systems in India takes about 18 months to do the same. This is a quick snapshot of how our farm is going to look like. This farm is capable of producing 100 tons of trout.
Our target market is split in 3 ways. We sell the bulk of our production to wholesale, which occupies around 60%, and the rest is split between export and D2C. However, as we expand our production and get a brand going on, we're going to expand these numbers because to get obviously benefit from the higher margins in these sectors. Now, this is why we're truly different. We use world-class farm management and technology to give you 2x EBITDA growth. First, we cut down the time to grow trout from 18 months to 9 months. Second, our feed conversion ratio improves our feed cost by 25%, and our access to Indian infrastructure helps us to expand and boost our growth economically by giving us low capex and opex. We grow fish fast, and that's our aim. With a 100-ton farm, you want to expand to 400 as quickly as possible and soon actually be the biggest trout manufacturers in Asia.
So my name is Shaurya Agarwal. I'm a CEO and co-founder. I graduated from Bryan University with entrepreneurship and biology. I worked on Indian Fish Company for the past 2 years.
Hi, my name is Vatsal. I recently graduated from NYU with a finance degree, did some time at Credit Suisse, but moved on. And then I've been heading growth roles at 2 venture-backed startups in the past 2 years, actually.
We also have 4 very trusted advisors on board. 2 are experts in the aquaculture space, leaders, and 2 are experts in the business area. One is a banker and one is a manufacturer of alcohol. So we started our journey in 2022 by taking some RAS classes in Cornell and doing a lot of research based on RAS. Then we set out to build our own DIY system where we targeted to raise 5 tons of catfish. After doing 2 harvests, we soon realized and understood why there aren't any RAS firms in India growing successfully. The biggest problem in growing the catfish turned out to be the equipment and combination of lack of knowledge on how to operate a RAS farm. We understood that the operational and biological deficiencies in RAS after working on our mistakes. We quickly knew that we needed to do something more innovative and a better running system. So we got in touch with Freya Solutions in Denmark to build our feasibility and design reports. By the end of that year, we secured $500,000 to help us buy our land and to start preparing a farm on it. Currently, we're raising the last bit of capital to start building in October and start our 300-ton phase 2 by the end of 2026.
These are some basic financials of the company. All of these numbers are given by NAC, the Nordic Aquaculture Consultancy Service, backed by a feasibility report. We have an IRR of 19%, EBIT margins of 48%, and hopefully have a return on investment of 30%. We also have sensitivity analysis, which we can get to if we have the time later on. Today, we like to offer 8% of our company for $360,000, and we plan to use all of this money in basically finishing up our farm to build chilling systems, water intake systems, and utilities, and office spaces, basic site manufacturing.
To sum it all up, we are a hungry, motivated team to make a difference, and we can't wait to have you all on board. We're happy to take questions.
Thank you, guys.
Wonderful pitch. Thank you both. Wonderful dynamics in between the two of you as well. I'd hand over first, please, to Nadine to kick us off this time. Nadine.
Hi, that was great. Learning quite a bit. Just so a lot of it is based on the amount of like the subsidy advantage that you have in India, right? Are you planning to keep it based there? Because obviously that's where you're getting a lot of the benefits.
So the government of India has given the biggest push since independence to the aquaculture space. We do foresee ourselves in India for production, but our consumers will be all over the world as we want to export the fish. We also want to take use of those subsidies We're also getting a lot of help in terms of expertise on ground and also understanding the local trout consumptions and how the local farmers currently are growing trout. So those are the systems where the government is really helping us. We also have to look at how we procure our eggs to grow the trout. And that's also where the DNA analysis, the government labs and offices are coming in to help us.
And just to add on that, we have a grant which we're getting, which is not completely reliant on the grants. It's just that the capital availability the government is giving just helps us get a push forward. So currently we do have a grant which is secured that has a maximum cap, unfortunately, and we get that once we have everything else secured. And then we also get a working capital loan from the government with no interest. So those are basically the two main subsidies when we talk about subsidies.
Okay. And then the aim is to stay focused just on trout for the foreseeable future. That's it. Not going anywhere else.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, that's great. All right. I'll let it go to somebody else.
Thanks,
I know
Nadine.
we're short on time.
On to
Thanks.
David, who's he's linked to this area as well, at least the
Yeah,
actual space.
I'm excited both for the area and Vatsal. I'm a fellow Stern alumni, so I love seeing some of that going on. So I do see some parallels of what you're doing, and part of the reason I'm familiar with this is the vertical farming, which we're going to talk about a little later with another panel. But I think one of the things that we saw in vertical farming or have seen is VC funding is generally not a great way to go, because they don't tend to invest in infrastructure and have high expectations. So that's just a cautionary. And one of the things that I think folks learned down the road was project-based financing. So for your specific site, can you get some project-based financing and really look at those numbers and those returns separate from what is more generally an investment from a VC. So that's maybe just some guidance. The question I'm going to focus on or ask you to elaborate on is really around distribution, cold chain, like how you're managing those infrastructure issues. I'm somewhat familiar with India, but that I think can be challenging to ensure that you keep your product fresh. And I'm really curious about how you're going to address that.
So just to give a quick point on that, India being the largest producer of shrimp and exporter of shrimp, we have a lot of 5-star export houses in India who deal in IFC freezing and export of seafood. So we already are in talks with one big firm in India who is an export house, and they are going to be taking our offtake and processing it and then packaging it and exporting it. When it comes to the local markets, we plan on selling the trout live in the wholesale market because you get the best price there because your fish is auctioned rather than fixed costs, because there are a group of people who try to buy your fish faster than the others. So the price keeps going higher and higher.
Interesting. Yeah, the other I recall on your slide about 5% direct to consumer, 60% wholesale, 35 for the remaining, and those are three challenging and very different markets. So that would be the other caution, is you may get the most margin for 5%, right, on a per unit basis, but it's not going to drive your overall profitability if it's only 5%. So just how much effort are you putting into that channel? I'll turn it over to Elena. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, David.
Thank you so much for pitching with us. Really interesting business. I learned so much. My question comes first to your IP. If you have a patent, and how do you go about the IP strategy? Because you are planning to go to different markets, and is this technology going to apply everywhere, or how is it going?
So in terms of IP, we don't have like hard intellectual property which we can patent, but we do what we believe is an IP in this industry is farm management skills and having the right relations with the place of procurement for feed and for seed. So where you get your egg and where you get your feed is very important for how you're going to be producing the trout. to answer your question in full, the IP comes from world-class farm management techniques and how you want to create nucleus breeding DNAs in the future, where you can have your own little trout breeding center and not rely on paying heavy prices for eggs in the future. So to develop that world-class recirculating aquaculture management style in India is what we are specializing in, because that doesn't exist in this country. And as you said, as you saw, that the low capex and opex are going to be giving us a better price to compete in the international market.
Mm-hmm. And what is happening on the market? What are the other players doing? Are you going to build some barriers to entry, or what is happening if someone which is able to scale faster, it comes and takes your takes you, so you takes your partner?
So I understand where you're coming from, but I also like to believe that the more trout, the better it is, because the population of the world is on a rise, and matter of 100, 200, or even 3,000 tons are not big enough to make an impact on the big market. And large players in the trout producing industry in Denmark and Norway, there are some recirculating systems there who are going to be our competitors, but with that low capex and opex, we're sure that nobody in India can beat us to having those management techniques and having those making sure those nucleus breeding centers are alive and kept well.
And to add on that, the 2 pilot projects which we ran, really, like initially when we started off, we were like, we're going to put the machinery and grow the fish. But there are redundancies in every single step of production. And those redundancies are even expanded because of where we are, because of the lack of knowledge and operational inefficiencies which we face here. So the learnings which we got in 2 years of trying our pilots and finally getting a thing which works, I think really is differentiating us in terms of how we manage our farm. And even though it's easy to do, but it's not easy to do it as quickly as we think.
All right. I just see that pilots require some capital, so it's kind of machinery and capital intensive. So yeah, that would be a next question, but I don't have the time. So thank you so much for the answer.
Elena, drop some questions in the chat. Please feel free to do that, the audience members, but also the panelists. If you've got more and more feedback, stay on till later as well. Michael, over to you, last panelist.
Thanks. Great job, guys. Really impressive traction today, some presentation. I'll just quickly pick up on Elena's question there. It was a question I had. So given that you've had some really good R&D and innovation work done, the catfish testing, etc., all the learnings, who funded it, and are they going to be involved in consequent next rounds?
So the funding for my learning and for funding me traveling the world, visiting RAS farms all over the world, going to RAS conferences all over the world, all these funding came from my family, who are originally alcohol manufacturers here in India. We are the largest bottlers for Diageo in India currently. They will be participating in the future rounds. They are also participating in this round, where we're getting the cost, where we raised our first investment through them for buying our land. And pitching to them is really hard. It's not as easy as you think.
Very good. And then, so the last question really is the Indian Fish Company a product as a service or a brand?
We are both, because we will in the future, once we have a successful model for display, we will encourage other farmers to use us to build their farm. So we will expand in the process of machinery also, but we also want to build a direct consumer brand, because at wholesale we sell the trout at $10 a kilo, but in retail that cost in India is $36 a kilo.
Yep.
So we start making far more margins based on that. And as David said, 5% is a low number to start, but we want to spend resources and expand that number largely.
Great. That's it for me. Thanks.
And just to add on, we have a cap table in the appendix. So if you guys, anyone's interested, we can drill down on that later on in the breakout rooms.
Our total cost of starting the project is $2 million.
2.3. Yep.
2.3.
Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much.
Crisp answers and wonderfully engaging pitch. Thank you for both of you. Yeah. Now on to our fifth startup today, and we've got Crate the Plate, and they're seeking 1.75 million, and it's the vertical farming startup, and the presenter is Daniel Christou, founder and CEO. Daniel is the CEO of Crate the Plate, a vertical farming business in London, focused on local production of high quality food. His background is in investment banking, having spent a decade advising technology businesses on mergers and acquisitions. It's a great pleasure to hand over to Daniel to present Crate to Plate.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone, and thanks for the opportunity to pitch here today. Give me a second, just share my slides. So hopefully everyone can see that.
It's fully on screen. You can start, Daniel. Yep.
So I'm here to present Crate to Plate. We are an indoor vertical farming business. We use hydroponic and aeroponic technology, which uses no soil, but rather nutrients dissolved in water, to grow high quality, fresh produce from our 4 farming sites in central London. The problem that we're tackling is that our food systems are very badly broken. We consume too much low quality and ultra processed food produced using unsustainable methods and imported from all over the world. In short, our mission is to help solve that problem by bringing sustainable, nutrient dense, local food production to urban communities. To give you a bit of a sense, here are a few pictures from our farms in Kentish Town and Elephant and Castle in London. As you can see, we grow our produce vertically in a controlled environment in which we control parameters including temperature, humidity, nutrient mix, watering schedule, and lighting schedule. This brings a number of important benefits. We can grow with consistent quality year round. We're able to use 0 pesticides and toxic chemicals. We use 95% less water than traditional farming for the same output and a fraction of the land. And because we produce close to where the food is consumed, we supply a fresher, more nutritious product as well. Ultimately, what we want is for people to eat better food while also improving food security. We currently grow lettuces, leafy greens, herbs, and microgreens. And the way that we differentiate in selling is through the quality of our products. So for context, when you grow crops in a field, they're typically selected for characteristics that have nothing to do with the consumer experience. So things like disease resistance, pest resistance, resilience against environmental conditions. We don't worry about any of that. So we select for things that are actually important to the person eating the food. Flavor, aroma, texture, and nutritional benefit. And I should add that we will shortly also be supplying mushrooms, as well as a small range of packaged products made using our produce. Things like pestos, sauces, dressing, and oils. All with a focus on amazing flavor and quality of ingredients, but basically by moving downstream, it enables us to to capture a little additional margin in a way that the economics of which are quite attractive. We currently supply restaurants and grocery stores across London, and we also, in a limited capacity, sell online for home delivery direct to consumer. Our customers, which you can see here on the slide, are pretty incredible. I mean, we've been able to supply the very best of the London hospitality market, which is really a reflection of the quality of product that we sell. Over the last 3 years, we've spent a lot of time and effort refining our production methods and our operating processes, all at small scale, in a way that kind of kept us agile and able to course correct, and are now in a position to scale profitably. We've deliberately not done it too quickly, and have instead chosen to focus on really understanding the unit economics of our business, putting a premium on capital efficient expansion with a quick path to profitability. We are raising £2 million to fund our expansion. The capital will be used for specific identified projects that we've spent a long time teeing up and that we are now ready to deliver quickly. This point is pretty critical. A huge amount of groundwork has gone into this over the course of the last 18 months, making sure that we can execute the plans quickly in as de-risked a manner as possible. That's a claim that I don't think I would have been able to make as little as 6 months ago. So very simply, with this capital injection, we'll look to deliver 3 things. One, we'll expand the product range to include mushrooms and packaged products. These are both great additions to the range with strong economics and margin profiles. We've already kicked off that process, but need a kind of buffer to continue to run with it. Number 2, we'll launch our first larger scale, higher yield farm, giving us some economies of scale and allowing us to address a more scalable mass market opportunity. And number 3 is we'll take the business to profitability with this round. Looking ahead a little, our intention is to realize a return for investors through an exit, most likely a trade sale to a strategic, though there are alternative viable paths as well. I'm always a little hesitant to attempt to predict the future, but I think it would be realistic to say that we're working towards achieving this on roughly a 5-year timeframe. That's it for the presentation. I'm grateful for your attention and look forward to addressing the questions. The only final point I'd add is that if you're in London and interested in visiting the farms, I'd be delighted to host you and let you try the products for yourself.
Super. Thank you, Daniel. Actually, we have Michael on screen. I thought we were starting with David, but yeah, straight. Are you going with Michael first, Meiraj? Okay, Michael, it is then.
Oh yeah, thanks, Daniel. It was great. Really interesting space, actually, hydroponic farms. So, are there any others in the UK or in Europe that you know of? How unique is your project?
It's an interesting question. The answer is yes, there are others. There are, as was alluded to in some of the Q&A of the last presentation, there are fewer than there were a few years ago, because some of the larger high-profile players have gone out of business. There are lots of reasons, I think, for that, and lots of reasons why we're doing things differently, but it warrants its own deep dive. So I'd say that in the London market, there are maybe 4 or 5 others that are doing this in a kind of meaningful way. Not all of them are targeting the exact same market opportunity than we are. They're taking slightly different channels and placing more of a focus on large retail, so supermarkets as the end customer. And I'd also say that we can't ignore the fact that we don't compete in a vacuum. We do compete in a very real sense with produce just grown in the traditional way. For a lot of people, it's if you're buying lettuce, they're not specifically looking for vertically farmed lettuce. They're looking for lettuce. So we compete with traditional growers as well.
Great. I think we're running short of time, so I'll just keep it to one
That's
question.
right. Oh, yeah, on to David, please.
Yeah, this is a space that I know quite well, Daniel. I don't know if you know, but I was at Unfold previously. We sold seeds into vertical farms. I think along the competitor, that's my biggest concern is you've got major entities like Jones Food Company, Upward Farms that are more established and ahead of you in many ways. I'm very curious about your energy costs and labor costs because those are usually the killers for these types of endeavors. And then it looked like your containers could have been like a freight farm container. I'm not asking who your supplier is unless you want to divulge that, but I do think that there's some benefit to that approach, but also you don't get the scale benefit that you get from either greenhouse or verticals like Jones Food Co. that are just going massive. And I realize they're in a different region, but it really only takes, if you're 1 hour outside and get lower costs of production, 1 hour outside of a big city like London, you can ship it in, right? So you have cheaper land and real estate costs and usually cheaper labor costs as well. So really, I think it is a challenging market, and I'd be really curious on the competitor piece. The sooner you can get away from leafy greens, which is lower margin, the mushroom I think is interesting because not a lot of people, there are some, but not a lot of people are focused on mushroom. And then I think the upcycle from going into pestos, and that has worked for folks like Jack Moy's Singapore group, right? So I would take any lesson learned from the industry that you can. Don't be shy. There's nothing like flattery, no better flattery than borrowing somebody else's idea. But certainly take those ideas. I guess my big question would be around, what are your energy costs? Like, if you can kilowatt per hour, like that will help me understand, is this viable, and labor costs as a percent of your totals.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you for the questions and the commentary, David. I'll try to address as much of that as I can. I'll start with the explicit questions at the back end. At the moment, at the scale that we're operating now, our energy costs are, depending on the site, are between 21 and 30 pence per kilowatt hour. So pretty good, but could be better. We basically, I'm going to tie the answer to this part of the question with another remark that you made, which is you were right to observe a freight farm in the photos there. We as a business are deliberately tech agnostic, so we don't develop any of our own technology or systems. And as a result, we've been able to evaluate a number of different technology types, specifically within the hydroponic and aeroponic sphere. The containers are not the way to expand for lots of reasons. They cannot scale viably. I don't think there's any debate anymore about that. What the containers have been useful to us as is a means of operating at a scale that is small enough that our mistakes aren't too costly, that we're kind of nimble enough to course correct and make different strategic decisions and try multiple technologies to take a view about how best to expand. But it's big enough for us to have been a relevant player in the London market. So we're not just kind of supplying 2 or 3 restaurants and trying to take feedback. We operate at a scale that's a little more meaningful that, and with a market presence that's a little more meaningful than that, with kind of 50-ish B2B customers in the London market. In terms of how but what the last 18 months have been about is defining how to expand in a way that is both efficient on the CapEx end, but also has vastly improved OpEx dynamics. So to address the second part of your question, and tie that together with the point I'm making, which is around labor, the containers require roughly 1 FTE per container. It's not quite as simple as that. It depends on product mix that you're growing. Some are more labor intensive, some are less, but it averages out at about 1 FTE. As we move to slightly different systems, and we've earmarked what these are, the labor comes down to roughly 1 FTE per 4 container equivalents of production capacity. And I say container equivalent because it's obviously not a container. It's in a larger indoor space.
Yeah.
And that trend only goes one way. It's the likelihood is that that actually improves over time, but we've already identified the path to achieving that level of improvement. The energy consumption also comes down with that transition that I'm describing. I have paths to improving the price per kilowatt hour too, but I won't take too much time on that too. But basically, we've been very, very focused on cost reduction because in order to make this profitable and scalable, not only do the costs need to come down, but basically the costs need to decrease by more than my price point decreases, because my price point does need to come down from where it is. And we've already mapped that. That detail's not lost on us. So we price at a premium for a premium audience at low scale. That's what we do now. But we basically have the path to lower price, but lower the cost by more, so that the profitability profile improves. I hope that answers your question.
It does, and I'll hand it to Elena. I will say that the energy costs are very high. So in the Canadian market, the average energy cost is roughly 7 cents per kilowatt hour, 7 cents, and some of the operators up there can get it down to 2.5 because of the hydropower. So anything you can do to reduce that energy cost, it's going to help.
Yes, I mean that's very, very cheap. Basically through a partner that we've teed up a joint venture with, I won't, given the time constraints, I'm not going to get into it, but basically we have a site earmarked that is something like 75% renewable powered, where the power cost comes down significantly, and that's kind of key to in the transitions. At small scale, it is important, but we have less control over it, and fundamentally it doesn't radically alter the thesis. It basically has to work with the transition that I've described.
Thank you.
Could you actually bring in Nadine actually first before Elena? Sorry, Elena, because I'm really mindful of time, and Nadine's got some expertise.
Yeah,
in this
no,
area.
just a quick. Energy costs. We've seen quite a lot in the UAE go bust as well. And typically energy cost is one of the biggest challenges, and I think you've got even competitors in the UK who have kind of, I think even people like IGS who have almost cracked that energy cost in terms of getting those costs down significantly. So I think just, be wary that there are players who have significantly managed to kind of make headway on the energy costs, and they're about to launch in the UAE as well, actually. But the other thing is leafy greens, just lowest margin, and then the other so what we've seen is the ones that have succeeded or have survived are the ones that have basically moved away, and they've gone to, whether it's seedlings we've had aeroponics go much more into the seedling side, and then we've had quite a few that have gone to trees actually. So even the ones, so going into just higher value, higher margin, and still doing the leafy greens, but but direct to a specific buyer. So they have an off-taker, they have their agreement, and that's it, and they will not do beyond that. But yeah, it's a very competitive space, I would say. And there's and certainly in the UAE, I know we have a lot of people in that area, and it's kind of one where it's just got a bit of a bad reputation because of the whole energy cost side, and obviously in the UAE it's even worse if you're not subsidized. So that's just one thing I think to bear in mind.
If I can address a couple of those remarks, I don't disagree with any of that. Just because you brought up IGS, helpfully, they actually don't compete with us. We could be a customer of theirs. So if they have cracked the energy question, that is useful for me to know, because if I buy their kit, then apparently problem solved.
Yeah, they've redone. I think they're patenting it, but their entire lighting structure so that it consumes, I think, 90% less energy. So it's
that would be incredible, and I'll definitely follow up with them, because that's useful for me to understand, because I can be a customer of theirs. I can use their kit, so that's a useful name to have brought up. On the dynamics in the UAE that you describe, make perfect sense. I mean, and to be honest, in the Middle East more broadly, at the moment, like it's a very saturated pocket of the world, the Middle East for vertical farming. Basically, everyone's gone after the same small pocket of business because the macro dynamics appear to be correct. You know, cheap energy, cheap labor, small
everybody
amounts
thinks
of
there's
arable
money
land,
and subsidy.
and there's money. But yeah, also cheap energy, cheap labor, and very little arable land. So it's the dynamics appear to be good, but there's only, big as the Middle Eastern market is, it's only so big, and basically everyone's going after the same business.
And it's not cheap energy actually. So when
Right, okay, yeah.
So actually it doesn't end up working. You save on the water for sure, but actually it's not really cheap energy, and so that ends up killing them because the cooling, you have to cool it.
That's true. Yeah, very true.
So you actually do take a big hit on the energy side.
Yeah, and the water is marginal because it just doesn't use a lot.
Yeah.
We're going to move over to Elena now. Any last remark or question you have? One question you have for Daniel before we move on? Elena.
Yeah. Hi, Daniel. Really great pitch. I congratulate you for reaching this far with your business. It's not an easy environment, and you have done great progress. I would have a few comments on your storytelling style and pitch style, because the technology is not new anymore. It's been around for a while. You could probably, I'm suggesting this, you could probably start with lesson learned. So investors will understand how in-depth and how well you know the industry, and you will really manage to pinpoint on the critical aspects that have been discussed that you didn't even mention, and I find it's like a minus that you didn't mention about the high cost of energy and labor. So this, everybody knows that this is kind of the reason number one that hydroponic farms are disappearing, because they cannot scale and they cannot cope with this aspect. So I will start with that. I will touch that. And also, we are not reinventing the wheel. So you say that we are doing like the others are doing, and then convey your unique selling proposition, convey your sweet spot, convey what you manage to do the best and how you differentiate yourself from the others. And here comes also, you get the opportunity to say about the green leaves, and also inform your investor about that you are aware that with the mushrooms, you get a better margin. But I'm asking you, what about the strawberry? So you didn't touch. So I would like to see a little bit better structure and information coming in, like flow from one thing to another, and also balance the critical aspect with a narrative, like maybe say something from your experience, what you learned to do better and what you were falling short, but now it's like, again, like lesson learned. And I'm stopping here, but then on the pitch deck, I'm not sure if you just got stuck on one slide and you had more slides. I'm not sure how many slides you have, because you were talking, and then the slides didn't move. We didn't change. We didn't see something else. So I don't know about that, but I suggest it would be great if you could add a roadmap. You can link it with also the phases of your round, how you model the round, how many milestones you will have this year, in 2 years, and where you want to reach in 5 years, or at least on the product development roadmap. I've seen different approaches, and we would like to see that. That would be very.
Thanks, Elena.
I don't disagree with any of that, and encouragingly, I think for me, the actual investor deck addresses all of those points. There's a significant section on what's going on in the sector more broadly, the lessons that we've learned from that, the lessons that we've learned ourselves, and that kind of phased detailing of the expansion is in there as well. I was a little bit mindful that for again, I think probably not for the first time this evening, but in a 5-minute pitch, I wanted to make sure that if you've never heard of vertical farming in this audience, that I've told you what it is. And there are definitely constraints of the format. But beyond that, I don't disagree at all. The only thing I would touch on, because you've mentioned it, and it's not particularly in my deck, but on purpose, is strawberries. I don't think strawberries are a good play for vertical farmers and never will be. Or at least not growing to fruit. I think there could be an argument, it's something that we have explored a bit, we'll explore more, of growing strawberry runners, so basically the seedlings in an indoor vertical farm, and transferring to an outdoor hydroponic farm in a glass house to fruit. That could work, and that could work really well. But I think that historically the narrative of we start with leafy greens because yields are good, and down the line we're going to launch higher margin crops like strawberries. I don't buy it, basically. I just don't think it's the right proposition, and I'm not convinced it ever will be.
Thank you. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you again, most of the panelists, and also from Daniel. Thank you, Elena. Thank you to the panelists as well. Then we're gonna now move on to the last pitch. It's a very short pitch from one of our panelists in our community. We're really proud to have Christoph with us. He was with us in Netherlands last November for the Food from Food Amsterdam edition, and now he's here to present Hangry Hats. Christoph is the co-founding CEO and of this fast food disrupting company, Hangry Hats, serving proper food for a better mood. He's a co-founding, and it's a great pleasure to hand over to you, Christoph.
Thank you so much. Hi, everybody. Yeah, I'm Christoph, and we are challenging the fast food industry with Hangry Hats, serving proper food for a better mood. So what does this mean? Yes, right, proper food. It's our mission to create food of great quality, of great taste and great nutrition. Food that leaves everybody feeling happy about the choice and come back for more. In a nutshell, basically, to rush in and leave happy. So instead of this, which of course we all kind of love, but not on an everyday basis, eat this. What this means is what we created is a new food formula that is based on a very old culinary staple applicable to almost any culture around the world, which are filled dumplings. Over the last year, we have built kind of manufacturing process, production process with high flexibility, with a very high capacity, but also with high standards, meaning that we can produce this food in good quality, in good form, and of great taste. So what is it, you might ask? So it's a filled dumpling shaped like, you guessed it, a hat. The difference to any kind of other filled dumpling out there is that our dumplings are 90% filled with filling and not just with a dough, making it very nutritious. On the other hand, we put in for now one of the world's most favorite flavors that are used out there for over hundreds of years, which is Italian lasagna, French ratatouille, Greek spinach and feta, again, Italian caprese. And for a full day menu, we also offer it with apple pie or with blueberry cheesecake. So how are we going to sell this? We see that this is always an issue on the takeaway side with grab and go. And 69% chooses convenience foods today already to save more time for leisure and business activities. And already 1 out of 5 customers purchase grab and go foods numerous times a week. So what we have built a tech-enabled grab and go chain. On the one hand, we have a very low investment need of less than 35,000 euros per unit because we don't need expensive equipment or appliances, meaning that we can also, with this unit, generate between 20 and 40,000 euros in monthly turnover. On the other hand, it's very simple to operate because we have very low training requirements and therefore can have a high uptime in regards to perfect service excellence. And on the other hand, we have a high visibility because we can go where almost nobody else with food can go, which are high traffic indoor retail spaces, because our kiosks don't produce any smell nor any other type of contamination or noise. On the other hand, we also built something that delights our customers. We have a very simple and appealing ordering system on the mobile phone, but also on site for the POS. We experiment with all kinds of interactions, and we are lending a little bit of the idea from Charlie and the chocolate manufacturer, where we will put in many kind of ideas, such as the golden hat. aligned alongside with the golden ticket to activate the customers. So with this, we fill our promise to our customers to go from hungry to happy with 1 minute, starting at €7.49 for 3 pieces, up to 5 pieces that cost a little bit over $10. With this, we can capture a tremendously growing urban audience, from convenience shoppers to commuters, but also visitors of various types of events and festivals. This allows us to grab a chunk of a $3 billion market. On the one hand, grab and go, which is increasing to over $160 billion in the next 10 years. While on the other hand, on the food side, the dumpling market is doubling over the next 10 years alongside it. We have put together the best of both worlds so we can break the norm. On the one hand, our model has a very low complexity, so it's very simple to operate. While on the other hand, we combine it with affordable, hot, high-quality meals that mostly nobody else can offer. Of course, we have done more than making this in a year. We have done a product validation, selling it to over 1,000 customers last year. We've done a concept validation with a pilot from October till February this year to sell to over 3,500 customers. We're preparing the opening right now in September and October of 4 locations across the Netherlands. And with our unique distribution strategy, we will be able to go to 3 more countries in 25 already. Why is this the case? Because we have already signed partnerships with the biggest shopping mall operator in Europe, Klépierre Group, for 2 top locations in the Netherlands. We are close to do the same with URW, the second biggest shopping mall operator in the Netherlands. And we're close to also sign a deal to roll out in food markets in over 12 locations until the end of the year. And so why do we think this can be successful? Because our customers love us. We have generated over 8,000 organic followers. And to date, although we are since more than 4 months closed, over 500 people every month are looking for the directions to our pilot store. We know that financials matter in food more than in almost any other type of business. So we looked into how can we lead the square meter benchmarks. From day one, the store itself will be gross margin positive. And over the next 3.5 years, we will be able to achieve a 20% gross profit margin, similar to the leaders in the industry, such as McDonald's are doing. Our team, it's full of experts, it's full of expertise, but most importantly, they are amazing people and they love to operate and get shit done. If it's my co-founder Angelica on the production side, or it's Ben, who has been the GM for Innocent in the Benelux for more than 5 years, or James, who has led teams operational in hospitality and F&B of over 200 people. So summing it up, we are disrupting fast-served food. We have a tremendous opportunity at our hand. We have the validation that we are sure that we can succeed. We have a concept that is differentiated, and we have a product that is fucking damn tasty. So whoever wants to join us in challenging the fast food industry, we would love to talk. We have around 50K left in our 250K angel round, and we are just starting our 1 million seed round that we will close by the end of this year. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Christoph. Yeah, join Christoph from the breakout rooms. He'll have a 6th room, and he'll appreciate any of you coming in to see him. Thank you for presenting, changing your role this time from panelist to presenter. Wonderful. So we're now just going to wrap up the event. Meiraj is going to share the screen, and we're going to move through very quickly with the summary of what has happened over the course of the last 2+ hours, 2.5 hours, actually, a bit longer than we planned. So we had 6 startups that just presented. Firstly, we had the Food Founder Studio from Giacomo Cattaneo and their venture studio discover breakthrough academic research and build the next B2B food tech companies. And they're raising 3 million euros. Then we had Lorenzo Fanari presenting Solaro Capri Gin, and their award-winning London Dry Gin. The main botanical Zagara, London Blossoms, are handpicked from the Monte Solaro Capri, and it is where they get their name from. They're seeking £700,000 in seed funding. We had Lindsay William, the Urban Wine Company from the US, and their wines are made from the finest grape sourced from vineyards around the world, enabling the company to enable them to craft outstanding wines with a true international flavor. And they're seeking $500K USD in community funding, mix of equity and revenue share. But they have got an active WeFunder page right now, so I think it'd be great if Lindsay can put that link in the chat. Then we had brothers Shuaria and Vatsal Agarwal from the Indian Fish Company, and they're revolutionizing sustainable aquaculture in India using the recirculating aquaculture system, IFC Trout Farms, and they're offering 8% of their company, and they're looking to raise 360K USD. Then we had Daniel Tristau from Crate to Plate, based in London, vertical farming company using hydroponic and aeroponic technology to grow fresh produce around central London and beyond. Their mission is to bring sustainable, locally grown leafy greens to urban communities, and they're seeking £1.75 million sterling. Then we have Christoph, who just presented Hungry Hats, the proper food for a better mood, hat-shaped dumplings packing the world's favorite recipes. They're seeking 50K still, the remaining amount. But we'll be raising a further amount actually September onwards. So do get in touch with him regardless. Even if you miss out, there's another raise coming up at a later point this year. That's all from who is pitching. Thanks to co-producers that have helped build this series, like Sascha Dutta, who's on holiday with her family at the moment, from Marketing Strategiser. All of the panelists as well for your time and your ongoing commitment to supporting startups. Also the general attendees that have stayed around for the whole lot of time and dropped comments and supportive wishes in the chat and added some extra questions for the presenters to get stuck into. Our new panelist David, thank you. Elena for rejoining us as he always does. Michael, hat trick of appearances this year from you. It's great to have you working with us. And Nadine, we hope to work with you again in Dubai in September when we come there for Gulf Food Green. Thanks to our supporting companies, Meiraj particularly does our branding, and he's working with Hammerhead Global. Pagoda Projects provide us with a lot of young talent that we work with in the venture capital, startup, marketing, and event space. And also the companies obviously that our panelists represent today: 3Bar Biologics, RSVP Business Angel, R Ventures, and Dana Venture Builder. We can continue to promote the startups that are pitched tonight, so we'll follow up with a post-event email with links to their pitch decks, some investment highlights, and so on. And a lot of them will be providing me docs and links so they can track who's reaching out to them. So that will be great. And we've got a few other things. If you want to apply to be on one of our panels in future, please go to our website and do so. If you want to just submit your pitch and get some pre-feedback or potentially be considered for either one of our online autumn events or the Expo Gulf Food Green coming up, then please apply via our website. We're going to move now we do have a bunch of community groups as well. We got some active groups on LinkedIn. There's lots of peer support there, a mix of founders, investors, consultants. So really join them. They're really fantastic. I think they've got like 15,000 like views per fortnight or something, and lots of engagement, and 2,000 members. But probably like 3-4 times that people seeing, because it's public post, but you only get to comment and interact if you're a member. So please join there. There's some perks to being a member as well. And then we've run this feedback series early in the month. So if you want a bit more of a feedback orientation, there was a bit of feedback as well from the panel today. But if you're a bit of an earlier stage startup, want to test out a new investor pitch deck, then join us for one of our Foodpreneur, Drinkpreneurs collective events at the beginning of the month. They'll be kicking off again in early September, co-produced and presented by Sascha. And the Drinkpreneurs event actually features Meiraj Singh, who's a wine and drink specialist who was in the event today asking lots of fantastic questions. So there'll be an FAQ for that series, those series, pasted into the chat as well. And yeah, thank you for all the thanks and the wishes. We're now going to move to breakout rooms. I have got the 6 opened. If there's any glitch, sometimes there's a glitch first time and it might send us back after a few minutes. I don't know why it does that, because I always make sure the settings are perfect, and still there's often a little bit of a problem. I'll reopen them again and we'll go straight back in, but I'm going to open those now. You can manually choose which room you go to, but I will assign the founders quite quickly to your room, and I'm going to open those rooms now. Thank you, everyone. If you need to go, I understand. I know we're running over a bit, but it'd be great if you just at least pop into the rooms and say hi and bye, at least to the founders, and maybe promise to follow up with them if you want to see them or want to book a follow-up meeting. They would really appreciate that. Yeah, to know that you're interested and supportive.